Good afternoon and welcome to Back Alley Bonsai. It is a lovely sunny day here in Los Angeles, California. It is a brisk 66 degrees. That's why I'm not wearing my hoodie today. This is the difference between freezing to death and surviving in Los Angeles is 6 degrees. Hopefully I'm not too badly backlit in this one. We will learn, and life is for learning. Today, what I'm going to be working on is these two wild olive trees. These are pretty common decorative plants around Los Angeles. They're hardy and they're Mediterranean trees. Obviously, they come from the Mediterranean, so they're used to dry temperatures, rocky soils, and things like that. And they're pretty hardy. They're actually really hard to kill, pretty robust little trees. This one I actually bought at a grocery store. And it hasn't done much since then. It's just kind of done this. I've pruned it a few times. They tend to get these really big angular prune points, like they form these little Y shapes on them, which isn't always the best. But I'm looking at this in the long term and not in the immediate moment. This one over here, I actually grew this one from a cutting from a neighborhood tree that was chopped down shortly after I took the cutting. So some amount of sentimental value in maintaining the genetic history and legacy of that particular tree. That's one of my favorite things about taking cuttings, is if I can get a cutting from a local tree that I know is going to get chopped down or pulled out or something, it makes me feel a bit like a superhero, because where does one tree end and another tree begin when you are cloning trees? So that's kind of cool. If part of the tree dies back and I've saved a branch of it and that branch is continuing to grow, is it not the same tree? I don't know. The tree would do that on its own. It has nothing to do with me. I wouldn't say that it was a different tree. The olive tree of Theseus, as it were. So a couple of things I'm going to be doing with these today. I'm going to give them a quick shaping prune. I'm not going to do anything serious. I actually really want these guys to grow a lot right now. So I'm just going to kind of trim them into shape a little. You can see they're getting a little bushy blobby, and that's okay on olives. But there are certainly some weirdo branches. Like I've got one that's growing literally, like, I'll turn this kind of so you can see it a little bit, I think. This branch right here, which just grows like this behind all these other, this other trunk, which is kind of not necessary. So I'm going to get rid of that. I don't want that under the best of circumstances. So I'm going to be doing some of that, and then I'm going to be moving them over into these grow pots, and I'll show you guys these in a minute. These are basket pots. They're used really commonly in, what is it? Where they grow plants in water. You know what I'm talking about. Words are hard. Yeah, they get used in grow houses fairly often. Because they don't require a lot of soil that way. But I'm going to use them as grow pots. They got lots and lots of drainage. I need to put some sphagnum moss in them in order to get them to hold soil. But that's basically the plan for today. I want to try and get a really strong fibrous root mass on both of these plants, and then hopefully get some really strong growth, and in a couple of years have some real decisions to make. Olives are unfortunately very slow growers. Like, they will grow very vigorously and they will send these long straight shoots out, but as far as thickening up the trunk and things like that, they tend to be kind of slow. I've not noticed a ton of progress on these, and part of that is because I've aggressively pruned them. But this tree is probably 5 years old, I think, and this one here is probably 3 or 4 years old, and they're about the same thickness and haven't really made a ton of growth. And part of that is because they're in pots. Trees grow more slowly in pots, and every time you prune them back, trees grow more slowly. So I'm going to try and rectify some of that by doing a gentle prune and moving them into pots with better drainage to hopefully get better roots. And better roots will lead to better, healthier trees. So that is what we're going to be doing today. Drink my coffee. Oh, that's the stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and get the plant out of the pot. I got my root unbinding tool, and we're just going to go around the outside of the pot here and kind of gently lever it out. It's been in this pot for a couple of years. I've checked its roots, and they're not doing anything super aggressive. I don't think it's root bound. Certainly shouldn't be. The soil on the top is still pretty crumbly, which is an okay sign. But it's a pretty deep pot, and I'm not sure that it's really getting the drainage that this plant really wants. Because this is, of course, an olive tree. It wants rocky soil, lots of drainage, and not a ton of water retention. It wants moisture, but not water. There we go. All right. All right. Oh, it's actually a bit more root than I was expecting, but you can see it's still pretty crumbly. Soil's pretty healthy on it still. We're getting some nice little fine. Kind of zoom in on this a little bit here. Get some nice fibrous roots in there. You can see that. We'll take a look at the bottom. There's my drainage screen. All of this is actually a really good sign. The fact that this is all just falling out of here tells me that the soil is still really viable. Yeah, so I'm not going to do too much to this thing. I might kind of tease out the top and the bottom and then just move this thing over. I don't want to do a full bare rooting on it. That can really stress out the tree a little bit. I'm going to take some of this moss off the top and get my rake out and kind of start working from the top. I'm just going to work outwards, trying to kind of pull out any crossing roots and pull all the roots into a nice fanning direction. Kind of see where my actual root base is. Yeah, and all that actually looks really healthy. These roots are all a nice color. Got a bit of a thick one there, which I may need to do something about at some point, but probably not today. And then we'll just sort of pick a few of these roots out, and I may wind up reusing a lot of this soil in the end, because these roots aren't too long. It's actually pretty good. This is basically what I was hoping to see. And I'm hoping to encourage even more of this. The objective here by putting it into a grow pot with lots of aeration is to encourage even more of this kind of really fine, hairy roots. These root ends are where it actually takes up moisture and takes up nutrients. And the more root ends you have, the more basically hairy this is, the better off you're going to wind up being with the plant. So that's all really good. And again, seems like this is probably exactly the right time to do this. You don't have too much overgrown stuff going on. This right here is a grow basket pot. Like I said, these are frequently used for water-based growing and things like that. Hydroponics, that's the word I'm looking for. Hydroponics. Got lots and lots of space in here, lots of drainage, but the problem is that when you try and toss soils in there, a lot of the time it'll fall right back out of the bottom. So in order to combat that, I'm going to toss some sphagnum moss into the bottom and set up like a basic layer to help screen all of that off and to create sort of a combination drainage layer and growth layer. So I just have this bucket full of sphagnum moss soaking over here, and I'm just going to toss it into the bottom, and I'm going to squish a bunch of it into the sides. So there we go. You can kind of see what I've done here. I've just sort of nested all of this material into there, like so. Squish a little bit of the soil or the water out, get it really wedged into the sides. Maybe move a little bit more to the middle. And that should give us a pretty good platform to add soil to. So we're just going to go ahead and add some regular old bonsai mix to this. And again, nothing fancy here. This is just my usual mix of, combination of cactus soil and turfus and some pumice that I've tossed in there. Or actually, I used perlite this time, but same basic idea. And let's see, how does look at the pot. That actually is about where I want it to be. Perfect. Nailed it on the first try. Cool. So now I just need to get some more soil around it. Okay, and put a little bit more soil in there. Cool. And there we go. It is now in its new home. See the soil in there. Layers sphagnum moss. Hopefully keep everything nice and moist. And give us lots of ability to grow some nice new fibrous roots in this pot. So now we'll prepare our second basket. Okay. So we got our pot prepared. Got a little bowl in there. Now we need to get our other plant out. And we will take a look at this guy's roots. Yeah, we watch the sun come across too. And this one is a little overgrown, a little pot bound. You can see down here in the bottom, you can see the roots starting to circle the bottom of the pot. That's usually a good indication that it is time to repot the plant. So it's looking a little pot bound. The soil is also a little compacted. We can see that it's very tight up here and not a lot of water is able to really get through that. So it's definitely time to change soils on this one. So again, we'll do kind of the same thing. We'll rake out kind of around the edges a bit. Yeah, the soil is really dry. I just watered this too, so that tells me that a lot of this water is not really penetrating very well. The bottom is very swampy, so the water's just kind of sitting at the bottom of the pot rather than flowing through the way that I quite want. So I'm just gonna rake all these edges out and see what I got going on. And here's one of these big thick roots that I don't really want. And we're going to rake these out in kind of a generally radial pattern as well. Just kind of knock them loose a bit. Yeah, here's one of these roots that's growing in a weird way. So it starts off coming out away from the plant and then it cuts back in on the plant. So I don't really want that. But I think it's an okay root. Let me try and pull it free. Oh, it actually goes way back under the plant. Yeah, that's not healthy. But it's a good root. It's just, it got impacted by the side of the pot, and so it grew back under the pot, which is not really ideal. But that's why we do these, repots. Help to kind of sort those problems out. Because what will happen is, if you're not careful, the roots will start competing with each other. And we don't really want that. We want to make sure all the roots are helping to contribute to the health of the plant. And here is a drainage screen that is buried deep inside there. Okay, so there's a drainage screen in there. Okay, so we got that out. Let's clear some of this junk off. Get you up there. And deal with some of these long roots. So again, we got this really long root. Don't really want him. Another one that's really long. Don't really need it. Out of my pot. This one here, which is actually not a bad root. Just needs to be pulled up. This one here, which is really quite thick and gnarly. Not really growing in a great spot either, but I can probably pull it up too and get it to fan out. I'm going to cut the tip off of it because it's already looking pretty gross. Probably going to trim the tip off of that. And this one, which is sort of forming itself into a taproot, which I don't really need. Any of the roots that are just going straight down, I don't really want. A lot of these I think I can probably pull outwards, so that's all good. All right, so got some nice roots. Got most of our root ball intact. Put a little soil in this. Let's see. Yeah, definitely needs quite a bit more soil. Okay, that looks about right. I know it's not very dramatic at this point, but that's okay. For what I'm doing on this tree, drama isn't the order of the day. And I'm going to agitate the plant a bit and get a chopstick, the universal bonsai tool, to help kind of agitate some of this soil down into the roots. And again, try and comb them somewhat outwards, as we'd mentioned before. And then down under this root base. Just get it all packed in there. And just a little bit more soil. I can always remove soil later. But I want to make sure that all of my roots are well covered. All right, cool. So that is plant number 2 repotted. So next is going to be giving both of these plants just kind of a quickie haircut. All right, so I'm back and sun has really come out now. Moral of the story, do this in the morning. So like I said, what I'm going to do is just kind of a quickie haircut. I'm going to look for, these don't really have a front or a back or any real major styling choices to be made. But I don't really want like this really long branch here. So I'm going to cut this one back a little bit. It's got another piece that's shooting out right there, so we're gonna cut it back to there. Just get it kind of into a vaguely blobby shape, which is the normal kind of shape of an olive. All foliage on the tree at this stage is good foliage, and I don't want to trim off too much of this nice new green growth if I can help it. But like, I think this probably doesn't need to be in here. This actually isn't too bad as it is. So I'm just going to go in here and do that, and that, and that. And that's growing in a really weird direction. So I'll just get rid of that. Get rid of that. And that. Okay. There we go. Get a little bit more compact, hopefully get a little bit more ramification and splitting as a result. And now for the other one. Same basic thing. I'm just gonna do some real rough prune work on it. I don't want to do anything too dramatic. Just the quick hedge clipper trim. See what it do after that. Probably don't need that. Or that. But I don't want to go too crazy considering that I've done some root work on these plants. But there we go. So the only other thing then is just giving both of these trees a watering. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for watching my videos on wild olive repottings. If you enjoy this kind of content, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit the little bell if you want to be notified about when I put out new videos. Tell your friends about it. I enjoy doing these, and I like sharing what I've got. So, thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.